Hello, everybody, and welcome. And welcome to the Leadership Exchange, where we have candid conversations with forward thinking business leaders who are shaping the future of business. My name's Jason Zickman. I'm the president and CEO of the Alternative Board, and I'm really excited to be with you today. I got this great individual that I'm going to be interviewing today, and I hope that you enjoy it very much. Today, we're diving into a topic that can feel very complex. But it is also quickly becoming a really essential type of part of business that we should all be paying attention to. It's called decentralized finance, or DeFi, as folks call it. Our guest today is Matt Montellione. Is it Montellione or Montellione?
Montellione, you got it right the first
It
time.
is Montellione. Okay. And Matt is the founder of Blockchain Boardroom, a consulting firm helping business leaders navigate the world of crypto and DeFi, or decentralized finance, to unlock smarter ways to manage our capital, protect our assets, and prepare for the future of finance. Matt really does bring a unique perspective today, which I'm looking forward to digging into. He started his career in digital marketing and lead generation before making the leap into this crypto world. He's passionate about helping leaders cut through the noise and understand how these tools can actually work in the real business that we're all operating in. I'm pretty excited about it because I know that this is an area that I'm very interested in, but don't know a whole ton about. So, Matt, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. Really excited. Looking forward to it.
You know, I really enjoyed the conversation with you yesterday. I spent a lot of time thinking about what we chatted about, and I got even more and more excited. So I'm really looking forward to the audience hearing what's on your mind. But let's start from the beginning, if you don't mind. You started in digital marketing as well as lead generation, and then you shifted your focus into crypto or decentralized finance. Why? What was it that made you pivot from helping business owners grow through marketing to actually help them think about how to manage their money and get engaged in crypto? I mean, it's a big change. So I'm just curious, what was the reasons behind it? If you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, happy to dive into that. So I think it all kind of goes back to the type of person that I've become over the years. I'm always trying to being obsessed with what's next, trying to look to the future and trying to predict the trends that are coming, right? Like Wayne Gretzky, you got to skate to where the puck's going type of thing.
Right.
So when I started the business, my first business about 14 years ago, digital marketing firm, right? I was literally selling door to door to mom and pop shops, trying to sell them little website packages. And quickly I realized I had to figure out how to generate better leads online if I wanted to go up market. So I just spent all my time, energy, and money. When I get into something, I get like overly obsessed. And I just kind of figured out how to do it over the next year or so and was able to build the agency pretty substantially. And then realized I didn't really enjoy that so much because the scope creep is crazy and these custom development projects. So I was passionate about the lead gen side of things. I love helping business owners grow their business in one way or another. So I went down that rabbit hole and we transitioned about 9 years ago to fully lead gen. And it wasn't too long after that, right around the same time, 2017, I first learned about crypto, right? Like many people, 2017, I think we all sort of heard about it for the first time, right? All of a sudden, Bitcoin's going at 19,000. Fortunately, I was in a little bit earlier than that. But like many people, I thought I missed the boat, right? I saw Bitcoin hit $2,000 and I was like, it was $300 like a few months ago. Forget it. It's over. What should I buy now? Maybe there's a secondary Bitcoin. This is when I didn't know anything. So I bought things like Ethereum and XRP, which are still things today. Unfortunately, I bought some stuff that went to zero, of course, like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I just started getting so interested and so passionate about it. But it wasn't until around 2019, 2020 that I had some like really life-changing events, and as society did too, right? As we hit COVID, that I got deeper into like, what is money and the economic energy that money really is. And I saw it in a different way. So I went down that rabbit hole, and now I became really passionate about helping business owners and leaders understand that as well.
Yeah, it's great, and I could totally see how that evolution. And when we talked yesterday, you also mentioned that you're a little concerned with your current business about AI, and that this is almost like a hedge because this is the future, and maybe what you're doing with AI is making the marketing or the lead generation a bit more sketchy for you, at least in your eyes. Is that accurate?
That's definitely accurate. I mean, I don't think anybody saw it coming in terms of the way AI is now from 5 years ago. If you would have told me that these tools exist today, I would not have believed you, like many people, maybe people that were like truly in the space. But as I've seen the evolution of AI, they're making my job and many jobs in the digital marketing space, accounting, legal, you name it, right, are becoming easier and easier to do. So if you project that forward, AI is growing exponentially. I know as humans, at least I have this challenge. I can't comprehend exponential growth, right? We're like linear. A tree grows like this, right? Things progress linearly. But in this world, it's exponential. So the model today, 6 months from now, could be 100 years worth of progress. And if you just extrapolate that, I'm like, I really need to skate to where the puck's going, like I said. And I think crypto is one of the fastest growing industries in the world. If you look at the adoption, it literally looks like the adoption of the early internet. Right? We all know what happened there.
That's right.
Everything seems to transform from like physical to digital over time. And I
Yeah, I
think
love it.
that transition is massive. And he always typically brings more value because of like the network effect.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, so I'm going to dig into this. But there used to be a television show that was "Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?" I don't know if you remember that.
Yep, yep.
But the idea is that we've forgotten so many things we learned back in the day. But you see, crypto today is actually very different, right? It is a confusing, very confusing space. So now you speak about it all the time, but if you can speak to our audience as if we're all fifth graders, because we're in this world of crypto, so many of us just don't really understand it. So what would you say, and how could you explain this in some key terms that would make all of us understand it, regardless of how little or much we actually get been into the crypto space?
Yeah, definitely. So you kind of have the two different pieces, right? You have crypto as a whole, and then you have Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was the original crypto, sort of that holy grail, right? Invented about 16 years ago by someone or a group of people that no one knows who they are, right? Satoshi Nakamoto, no one knows who that is. Wild that somebody or a group of people invented something that's worth trillions of dollars and no one knows who it is. No one's come forward anyway, or the people that have been disproven that they're the actual person. So I think that there's a, how do I explain it in a way that's super easy to understand? I like to think of it as like a bank in cyberspace, which you've probably heard before from other people. It's a global bank in cyberspace, not just a localized bank. And we take it for granted that we in America have access to banking infrastructure that we trust, right? If I go to Wells Fargo, they're going to have my money, right? They're going to give me the money. I don't have to worry about that. But in other countries, it's actually like 19% of the world's population is underbanked or unbanked. So they literally don't even have a safe way to store their economic energy, right? They're working, they're putting in their human capital, and they can't really store it anywhere that's safe. So Bitcoin gives that to everybody, just like the internet gave information to everybody. This gives economic energy and the ability to store it in cyberspace to every single person on the planet. And I can dive in deeper to the mechanics, but hopefully from a high level, that's kind of a decent explanation, I hope.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. So now, many of us as business owners, we've studied a little bit of the crypto space. Some of us are active in it. I'm a little active in it, and I mean a little. Quite frankly, I'm active in it in a way because I just thought I had to be in it just to be in it. I don't really even know what I'm doing it, but I am watching it go up a little bit, and so it's been pretty kind of cool in that regard. But most are so absorbed in leading their own business, they don't have time or haven't had the time, like myself, to really dig in and explore opportunities like this. So help me understand, because we're talking about this DeFi, right? Decentralized finance. So for leaders who are not immersed in this, how do you explain what DeFi is? And more importantly, why do you think this should matter to us as business owners and business leaders in this day and age?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like the way you framed it. So it's one of those things that we're all running our business. We have a million things to do every day. I totally get that. But I've heard this quote that we spend like 40,000 hours of our lives working to accumulate this pot of gold, right? And accumulate economic energy so that we can hopefully live off it forever. So I'm like, it probably makes sense to spend 20 hours or 50 hours or 100 hours learning how to keep it because unfortunately, cash just bleeds value. I mean, the dollar's down like 11% this year, right? So what
Hmm.
decentralized finance is it basically gives the ability for average people, retail investors, business owners, and leaders to access financial products that were typically only reserved for banks. So, for example, loans. So there's crypto-based loans. So I help business owners and leaders understand that if you were holding Bitcoin on your balance sheet and you wanted to, let's say, finance a machine to help expand your business, you could actually take a loan against that Bitcoin as collateral in under about 2 minutes, no paperwork from the bank, 5% interest rate, no monthly payments. Like, think about how long that would take if you were a traditional business and you had an opportunity and how much paperwork you're going through, due diligence. The Bitcoin is the collateral, right? And it's instant. Now you have access to that capital in real time. You don't have to sell the Bitcoin and incur capital gains or
It
anything, and you can
it
buy it.
almost seems like impossible what you just said. It
Right.
like that's unbelievable thinking right there.
So cool, right?
And how long has this been happening? These loans and stuff like that.
Probably only about 5-ish years the DeFi sort of
But
loans that
but
have existed.
years, but years.
Years,
We're not
years.
talking. We're not quantifying this in days or months. You're talking about this is like going on for years. You've been involved in. You've been seeing this happen. Amazing,
Yep.
amazing.
Yep.
So
Such a cool
it
thing.
it doesn't go with credit worthiness. It doesn't go with the relationship you have with the bank. It is literally just an asset that you're able to borrow upon.
Access you could borrow upon. And what's even cooler is, well, that's actually a cool thing in and of itself. But furthermore, you can hold stable coins, which are US dollar coins, instead of keeping them in your high yield savings account, your business checking or your business savings. You're so pumped that you're at 4% right now because the interest rates are high, which is unbelievable compared to where it was. But you can have that same capital, instant access to liquidity at like 14% APY. So now you're earning 14% on resting capital, where before you were earning 4%, and that's high, right? Traditionally, you're getting 0.5% or something like that, sometimes less. So now you have the
Mm,
ability to actually earn on resting capital, as well as a financial vehicle to be able to take loans with no paperwork, no nothing. Of course, you need the collateral, which would be Bitcoin in this case, but you can do it
which
with
would be
other
Bitcoin.
cryptos too.
Amazing, amazing. And what's the downside to this?
When you say what's the downside, do you mean like to Bitcoin in general or crypto in general?
Well, I guess so. The risk maybe that's involved in it compared to what it was. I mean, this look, the stock market has risk. Everything has risk. But
Sure.
how do you evaluate? I mean, if you were advising somebody, this sounds all great, but is there a risk side to this? Is there a downside to this?
Yeah, of course. Like anything can be have some level of risk, right? Now, barring World War III or something crazy or a black swan event, if you look on a long enough time horizon, everybody is basically in profit on Bitcoin unless you bought like 4 days ago. Now we're talking at a really good time where Bitcoin's near all-time highs, but on a long enough time horizon, it typically always goes up. And I can talk through why I believe that happens and like the actual mechanics behind why it seems like it's up only. Stuff to do with supply and demand, a deflationary asset that's never existed in human history, and the digitalization of capital in a way that hasn't happened before. But the biggest risk to me is like if you need money tomorrow, Bitcoin is a terrible store of value because anything can happen. It can go down 10% in a day. It's gone down 20% in a day, years ago. So it's not a good store of monetary energy on a short-term time horizon, but on a long-term time horizon, we're talking about this finite asset. 21 million will ever exist. We're at like 19.6 million, 19.8 million that have been mined thus far in 16 years. So logic would say, all right, well, how many years do we have left to get the rest of them? That's what most people would think. Well, the crazy part is we have like another 115 years till we get the rest of them because of this deflationary mechanism. So if you just think of supply and demand, right, the demand is increasing. I mean, public companies bought 150,000 Bitcoin in Q2 and 100,000 in Q1. Publicly traded companies. This is unimaginable for us 10 years ago in the Bitcoin
Unimaginable.
world, right? But
In
we're only
fact,
making
I
450. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
I didn't read the headline. I wanted to read the article before you and I got on the phone, but the podcast today. But the Donald Trump, President Trump, just signed something in the Oval Office about Bitcoin. So I mean, it's becoming definitely more mainstream and not kind of you know a a trend or a fad, I should say. So it's very interesting. Yeah,
Definitely. People
yeah,
say
things are
like, "Oh, it's
happening.
tulip mania." You hear that all the time. It's tulip mania. I'm like, tulips didn't become worth $2.4 trillion. I mean, Bitcoin by market cap is the fifth largest asset in the world right now. So if you
Yeah.
just took away everyone's like preconceived notions and you just said, "Hey, there's this thing that's been around for 16 years. It's the fifth largest asset. It's bigger than JP Morgan Chase. It's bigger than Meta, just past Google by market cap." You'd be like, "Oh, I really want to know about that."
And that's why I was excited to get you on the podcast because I really do believe it's time. It's probably past time, but it's time now that we all start paying attention to this and getting a little bit further along. So with that being said, Matt, like many business owners, I've dabbled, like I mentioned a moment ago, in Bitcoin. Uh, For folks that are now going to be open to it, the biggest challenge that I see, and when I speak to folks, is where do you start? I mean, how do you get involved? I mean, what are some of the most practical ways, in your opinion, that one can begin to explore and leverage crypto, DeFi tools, whatever it might be, and then start thinking about how they can start really using this and possibly restructure their financial systems.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things to do is there's a guy named Michael Saylor who started this company called MicroStrategy. It's now called Strategy. And they have this great story of how they were sitting on 500 million cash as a publicly traded company after COVID hit. And they realized that because of all the money printing, we were going to experience significant inflation, which we've all seen. So they had to decide what to do. They explored every avenue. This guy didn't even care about Bitcoin before and just went down strategically, logically, all the options, and it ended up really coming to the realization that this was the apex asset. This was his belief. I mean, mine too, but his, right? And since then, his company's gone from like a 1.8 billion market cap to like whatever it is now, hundreds of billions of dollar market cap, because he adopted this Bitcoin treasury strategy. And he's got a ton of free education on his website. If you go to michaelsaylor.com or just type in Michael Saylor, he's got course after course after course on Bitcoin. It's totally free and why it has so many advantages over traditional finance. So that's a great place for people to start.
Okay. What else would you recommend? Anything else?
I mean, honestly, you have to sort out the bad from the good. That's part of the challenge in this space specifically, since it's new still technically. I know it's not really new, but you can get yourself in trouble by going on the internet and just searching around, and all of a sudden you're putting $1 million in some total scam, which we've seen happen time and time again. That's what gets the headlines. Right, that's where the
Well,
headlines
it's interesting because you said you dabbled in some that did very well and other things that you lost it, and so did I. I got caught up in a little bit of a wave of something, but Bitcoin seems to be the gold standard in staying, so it's interesting.
No question.
So when you think about DeFi, decentralized finance, part of what you discovered are these DeFi loans. And these are loans that you're saying is based on your crypto assets rather than using traditional banks. Now, that can be a great way for some businesses to access capital because, the banks could be funky at different times depending on what's going on in the world. So, access to capital is a very common challenge that business owners are seeing on a regular basis. So, you mind spending a moment with us and can you walk us through how the DeFi based lending actually does work and how a business owner might use that in compared to a traditional bank? You mind sharing a little bit?
Yeah, happy to walk through that. So just imagine you've accumulated, whether it's all at once or slowly over time, one full Bitcoin. And let's say this Bitcoin is worth at the time $200,000. You can borrow against it typically around a 70% loan to value, which is sort of like real estate. Oftentimes they'll get you 80%, 70% loan to value if you owned a piece of real estate. Now, the risk here is the margin call. So if the price drops below a certain number, right, they can liquidate the collateral. So that's one of the biggest risks in DeFi loans, which is why I always recommend to people, again, it's not financial advice, just education, right? That you don't go over 30 to 40%. Because the idea that Bitcoin is going to drop 60 or 70% at this point, there was a time when I think that was possible. I don't believe that's possible ever again, barring some black swan event, right? Then you're much safer in that realm of reality. So they basically take custody of your asset, right, while the loan is out there. And again, the cool part is no monthly fees. Like you don't have to make payments. There's no payments that are required. It's just a balloon. So if you kept that for 5 years, let's just say you needed to for whatever reason, and then you paid it back later. Now, in reality, what would likely happen is Bitcoin would also appreciate in value over those 5 years. So you could clip off a very small piece of it and pay it back and still have the rest. That's what a lot of people have been doing as Bitcoin's been going up.
I wonder how the traditional banks are addressing this phenomenon of sorts. This has to be a real head scratcher. Or do you think traditional banks will wind up getting into the crypto space as well?
So they are. So what's so cool is now we're seeing the banks either because they have to or because they see a money making opportunity. So now the rules have changed. The Fed just said that the centralized banks can now custody Bitcoin, which they're going to want to do because they're going to want to give you the loan, right? So they make the money. So of course they're going to have that. And then there's a lot of movement towards stable coins, which is probably the thing you just saw on the news, right? The stable coin bill just passed. And stable coins are basically US dollar coins. They're pegged to the US dollar. Now, there's different issuers, so you want to be careful because some of them are very sketchy, some of them are very trustworthy. But stablecoin issuers are the biggest buyers of US treasuries now because literally they just take the money you give them, they buy US treasuries at 5% interest or whatever they're paying now and issue you this token. So this company called Circle just went public. You got to look at their stock chart. It's gone through the roof. They're
Wow.
printing money because you're giving them money. They're turning it into a coin that has a secure element to it, but then they're just using that money to buy US treasuries. So I think the US government now sees it. Like you said, the administration sees the value in crypto, and also all the financial institutions see the value as well. And there's one more thing I'll tell you about if we get into it is the payment processing element. Like Visa and MasterCard and all them are adopting it because they realize the days of 3% fees are over. Crypto, you can send $1 billion for literally a dollar. Like the transaction fee would be $1. So it's just incredible.
And that's going to be, they're going to have to pay attention there because that's a huge part of their revenue model.
Huge.
So yeah, huge part. Yeah, yeah, amazing, amazing. So Matt, the audience that we have that listens to this podcast and we're in the circle that we operate in are a pretty sophisticated audience. They're business owners, they're business leaders. Now they're used to making significant risk assessed decisions each and every day. Crypto goes up, crypto goes down, and people have gotten in at the wrong time and lost money. Now, that's investing. But I'd like to ask you, what would you tell folks in our audience interested in exploring this further? How to evaluate the downside? How do you really understand what kind of risk you're getting into or not so they get it? Because it's about as clear as mud to me.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to, of course, your level of research you're willing to do, right? So spend 10 hours, and there's this really good like adage where you're 10 hours, like you're still a skeptic, 20 hours, you're a trader, 50 hours, you're an investor, 100 hours, you're a maximalist, right? So there's kind of this trajectory that'll take place as you do more and more research and then look at the historic trends. But one of the things about Bitcoin is, again, this is not financial advice, but dollar cost averaging, I think, is the easiest way because you're going to get the average price at any time. And then also understanding that dips are part of the game. At least they have been historically. Now that could change. Now there's big players in the game, but they're part of the game. And now when Bitcoin dips, I actually get happy because I'm allowed to buy it at a discount, right? I'm like, you're giving me this opportunity, just like Warren Buffett made all his money right on these dips because he's like, this is an undervalued asset. I'm getting this at a better price. So if your time horizon is very, very long, right, you can see that there's a nothing but uptrend on Bitcoin. And the reason for that, I think, is a variety of different elements. But I would just say educate yourself as much as possible. Michael Saylor's got some great stuff. You can go to our website too if you want some free information. But Saylor's really got some great stuff.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I really like that. 10 hours, 20 hours. Yeah, that's really neat. I'm going to put in that time and I'm going to let you know if that's a trajectory that happens for me as well.
Please do.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I will. I will. So now you studied the evolution of money. We chatted a little bit. I found the conversation yesterday pretty compelling and interesting. And you've seen how things have gone digital and where traditional systems that have not gone digital kind of broke down. Now you are based on in the States, and we have an international audience that's listening to this. Digital currency is now entering the mainstream, it seems, or it certainly is no longer a fringe, right? I mean, I think it's been around long enough. I was talking to my wife about it. This isn't a fad anymore. I mean, it's continued to be established. It's gone through the highs and lows. It's not a fringe anymore of finance. So what if I had to ask you to take a look in your crystal ball? And I know you have a nice crystal ball there. What would you say about digital currency and what may be in the next 5 years down the road?
Yeah. So I think all of them to me, besides Bitcoin, are still speculation. Now there's fantastic products like Ethereum out there where things can be built on top of, almost like Apple. They built an app store. You could build your own applications, literally. Bitcoin to me is sort of like digital gold, right? It's storing your monetary energy. I think in 5 years, Bitcoin will continue its trajectory, right? It's basically gone up around 55% annually every year, compound interest, which is outrageous, right? If you look at like what the S&P index has done.
Yeah, right.
And if you look at just that, and let's extrapolate that a little bit, the S&P index versus Bitcoin over the past 10 years is down like 85%. Most people are pumped on their S&P index because it's up significantly against dollars. But if you kind of break it down like this, a gallon of gas in 1950 was 25 cents. Now let's say it's 3.25. Gas didn't get more expensive. The dollar lost 93% of its value. So you can't hold your economic energy in cash. Everybody knows that, right? That's why you invest. But if you had $100,000 in 1925, 100 years ago, right, you lost 99% of the value for what that's worth today. So you have to figure out a vehicle or multiple vehicles. And I think this is one that's well worth considering at the bare minimum.
Yeah. It's fascinating. It really is. And everything you're saying, I tried to sit there and I tried to be the skeptic when I listened to it. I'm tried to been shooting holes in this, but it seems like it's really just responding as something that's really coming on pretty strong. So, Matt, as a business owner, switching kind of away from the crypto and the DeFi, but just speaking to you straight up as a business owner, a business leader, you've led teams now for quite so many years through some economic shifts, and you've had to make some major pivots. What do you think what was one of the toughest leadership decisions that you had to make in a time of uncertainty? And what do you think it taught you about adaptation and as a founder, and now as a founder of what now your third business? So does that
Yeah,
make
that's
sense
a
what I'm asking?
definitely, it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. And it's a great question. So I'd say one of the hardest decisions to make was just the number of pivots that are required, especially in the marketing business. And to say like the last 7 words of a dying business, that's the way we've always done it. I don't want to be that person, right? And fortunately, I've had groups in my life like Tab and peer advisory groups that have been super helpful and provided insight. So like you can't see the forest through the trees. And the decision I think I made that was the biggest was shifting from we used to do a lot of outbound email campaigns. We would print money for ourselves and our clients with outbound email. And so many of the rules and regulations changed around that and they made it more difficult. And we realized people do business with they know, like, and trust. That's our avenue. And we literally built out a gifting platform, personalized gifting system. So completely not digital, which is funny. But if you want to get in front of someone and build rapport and build that know, like, and trust, we have a way that we were able to send physical personalized gifts using AI to diagnose their personality and all this cool stuff. And that allowed us to really create a much better revenue stream for ourselves and our clients. But it was a major pivot. It was going from
Major.
email
That's
back to the physical, which is so funny. Everything comes full circle.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting, man. So I have two more questions for you, but this is my last business question for you. Building a great culture. That's really it can be quite elusive or vague, or the concept of it to many business owners or leaders. Now, we work with a lot of tab members on culture, and how important it is. Now, the challenge that we often see is not necessarily defining the values in the culture that you want, but actually bringing that to life, making it happen, making it become something that's breathing, within your business. Now, you said your team didn't just define values, but you built a set of core values and behaviors together. Can you share a little bit about one of those values and how you feel it shows up in your business at your daily work and the
Yeah.
impact that you feel? And I guess, is there a message that you would share with the community about how important it is?
Yeah, so I'm with you. I think culture is one of the most important things in any business, and you can see that some of the most successful companies have these great stories of culture and what they've done. Ritz-Carlton, Chick-fil-A, all these different businesses that have thrived on that. And I saw this speech once that really resonated with me. It hit me like a ton of bricks, where the guy was basically saying everyone has these core values of like integrity and strength and care and all these things, but like what integrity is to you is different than me and to everybody else in the company. So it's like, forget about these core values, do core behaviors that have a little bit more meat to them. And then every week we have a
Core
different one.
behaviors. I
Core
love it.
behaviors,
Core
right?
behaviors. Yep.
So we have like every week we do a different one. Right? We ended up coming up with 16. We did this as a team, right? We have 16 different ones. It just happened to work out that way. And every week is a different one. So every day in our daily roundups, it's a different person's turn to give an example of one of the core behaviors that somebody else in the company did. And one of them will be like have an end of day mindset. That's one of them. Never leave a conversation confused, because that's so much more understandable than like integrity, right? Or something like
I'm
that.
totally. I love it. I love it. And how is it showing up in your business? How is it? What has it done for you, do you think?
What's so cool is people call each other out on the core values, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get that to you on Thursday. It's like end of day mindset. We can get that done today. Like, you know what, you're right. Or like client success above all else. Like, oh, I have to work extra time. Doesn't matter because that's our core behavior that we've agreed to. So it really does show up. It's so fun when somebody like actually says it. I know it's kind of nerdy, but it really just feels
I
good that
don't
it
think it's
works.
well. Maybe some folks might find it nerdy, but I'm a core value and culture nerd. So I love it. I might have to next time I do a podcast and we talk about culture and all that. I might have to bring you back and we'll talk about that because I that's the first I've heard about core behaviors. So well done, well
Yeah, I
done.
love it. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. So here's my last question for you because we're almost out of time here. Now, I'm a big music person. I love music. I go to a lot of live music. I like to talk to people. And I think that music, when people listen to and how they experience it just seems to put a smile on people's face. So here's my question for you. Do you have your favorite musical experience that you've had or your first concert, something that would share a little bit about music in general in your life? Where
Yeah.
does it
So
fit?
the best concert I ever went to was a band called Revolution. So not
Okay.
Revolution, but Revolution. They're like a California reggae band, believe it or not, but they are fantastic live. Like the energy in the room is just outrageous. And I've seen them in big venues and I've seen them luckily enough to see them in small venues. And like I feel like they're one of those bands, like they say, like Dave Matthews, like they're better live, right? Like they're actually better live. Everybody feels connected. The message is very positive and uplifting and motivational. And that's the type of stuff that I really enjoy.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, Matt, I really enjoyed spending time with you. I love what you're doing. You're making this whole crypto and DeFi not just more clear, but more interesting. And there seems to be a hell of an opportunity there. So I would encourage anybody listening, regardless of whether you wind up investing or doing this, I think we all owe it to ourselves as business leaders of businesses to learn more. This is something that it's not going away. So let's just see how we might be able to leverage it in our business and whatnot. And if folks want to learn more about it, let me know, and we'll continue to bring guests on to talk about it. So Matt, outstanding job. I appreciate you taking the time and being so generous with yourself and your information. And I want to thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on. Hopefully, I was able to add some value and got people's wheels turning and they're ready to go do some crypto research here.
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt it. So, once again, everybody, thank you for paying attention and listening to our podcast, The Leadership Exchange. And I hope all of you stay well, stay safe, and as always, please be kind. Take care, everybody.